What up, y'all?
Hey,
Welcome
hey.
back to part 2 of why you should not go into business with your significant other.
Yes. So last podcast, we started with the first set of reasons why you should not go into business. And if you didn't catch that one, let me catch you up a little bit. Although it is titled Why You Should Not Do Something, we really titled it based on what would stand out to you. So the people that hear these objections that are often given by well-intentioned, well-meaning loved ones, or sometimes just haters.
Right.
Either way.
Drinking the haterade.
Yeah. They are going to either lean into it and listen to it, and they are going to hear this podcast as, you're right, those are all objections, we shouldn't do it. But those that have heard them and are going to hear the examples that we give of how you can, because a lot of them are true, how you can get through them. I think that you guys are the ones that, should definitely continue on your journey, or it is for you. Right. So we titled it that way to kind of see what stands out to you. Are you hearing the objections, and are those scaring you? Is it creating a knot in your stomach? Is working for your boss that's kind of a psychopath looking really good right about now? Or is it something where you're like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I hear how you guys have gotten through it, and I think I can do this. Whatever stands out for you, I think it's good to respect what your body's telling you, what your mind is telling you, and kind of decide if it's for you. We are not here to turn the world into entrepreneurs. We are here to support those that really think it's for them, because you really got to be in this 10 toes down in order to deal with all the stuff that's going to come at you.
For sure. So before we get into it, we will start this podcast off like we normally do. Ish and giggles.
Now listen, even though this is a part 2, we can't not do that part.
Yep.
This is too fun for us. Do you want to read it? You want me to?
I'll read this one.
Okay.
All right. So if a man proposes to his girlfriend and she decides to say no, is the relationship over?
Yikes.
I already know my answer.
Well, yes, I do know, because guys do not like, what have we decided? Guys do not like being turned down, right? They do not like rejection.
Especially at that level.
Yeah. So I want to set it up a little bit. So you're out in a public restaurant.
You need details.
I'm just thinking, because I'm trying to think of a way that this could still be salvaged. So you're out at a public restaurant, right? You tell the waiter, oh, waiter, can you please... my glass is cloudy. Can you please bring me another glass, with a little wink, right? He brings you the glass, and in the champagne, there's a ring. So the girl, oh my gosh, she picks it up. What does that do? For the people around you, that usually kind of gets their attention, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, you're having you're hearing all that, right? And then she kind of looks stunned, terrified.
Deer in headlights.
Yeah, and... so that's where we'll stop, because I feel like it's salvageable if she's like, she gets up and walks away, and then she's like, come.
Right.
And then they have a conversation one-on-one. Hey, I love you, but this is like, you didn't tell, we haven't talked about, like, what? You know what I mean? That's a one-on-one. However, in front of everybody, and she says no, the Jumbotron at Dodger Stadium. I feel like it's more than the embarrassment than it is this fool really didn't want to marry me.
Embarrassment. So where does the embarrassment come from?
Because I brought you out here in front of these people, and you made me look like a fool because I asked you to marry me and you said no. And they're like, and then nobody at the restaurant's making eye contact with you the rest of dinner. The waiter's just talking to her because they don't want to look at you. It's a whole thing.
You might get your meal for free because they feel bad for you.
Yes. Ooh, that is a scam for you. Should we just go to restaurants and I didn't even think of that.
Sneaky. Yes. I feel like, as a guy, if you're going to propose, you kind of already know what the answer is going to be. At least you should.
If that's the case, why do guys get so nervous before they do it? Like, were you nervous before you did it?
Yes. And I wasn't nervous about you saying, yes, I knew you would. It was nervous about the plan, about that.
Oh, it going off flawlessly.
Yeah, because it's not just getting on one knee or however, and, it's a 30-second thing.
Yeah.
It's usually a 6 month to a year thing that's culminating into that one moment.
That could just blow up at any moment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're telling me, though, as a guy, I mean, when you say you already know my answer, I'm inclined to believe that you're just like, no, it's over.
Yeah, well, for me personally, yes, it would be over, because there's no way I would ask if we're not at that point or should be at that point. And if she says no, then we're obviously, that's my answer right
now. I just want to bring in a couple of personal details. You and I, Mr. Rennell, had already purchased I think we were on our 4th home by the time you proposed to me. So if I was like, not yet, you're just telling me all that would dissolve and we would just be like, we got to end this.
Yes, why wouldn't you want to marry me after 4 houses?
Well, I'm saying that's a lot to say. That's a big deal to say. A lot of times there's some entanglements.
Listen.
Now I don't mean it in the
Jada.
Yeah, I don't mean, but there is some
yes, we
professional
have 4 properties. We have. Do you realize that those 4 properties or whatever, the stuff that was signed for that, and then you're gonna say no on this?
I don't, and I'm trying to think of like why would a girl, because if a girl says no, are they thinking like you're not the one, or are they just saying no, not right now? And is a guy sticking around to even find the answer to that question? So you don't even care.
Yep.
You don't even care.
If it's not right now, it ain't later. So
well, you've taken that off the table. She might be thinking later.
Nah.
She might be thinking my dad's deployed and I want to wait till he gets back from Iraq to see this proposal. And you didn't ask him. You didn't ask.
It's on video. It's on the Jumbotron. He probably watching right now.
Okay. So
actually, he is watching right now. I called him and set it all up.
Okay. So
now
there is no situation under which you would be willing to.
Nope.
I'm trying to think, because there's no absolutes in life. There's never, for me, I think this can't be an absolute. There cannot be you know what, up until 30 seconds ago, I thought she was the woman of my dream. Now, F her. Like, it can't be.
Pretty much.
It can't be that.
Yeah, thin line, right?
I think it's your ego. There's a thin line between a man's ego and his happiness. That's what I think the thin line is.
No.
Wow. Okay.
You taking an Uber home?
That's what I'm asking. So are you paying for the dinner at that point?
Yeah, I'll pay for the dinner.
Is she keeping the ring at that point?
Yeah, you can have the ring.
Oh, wow.
That's fine.
Okay.
But you can't get me. No.
And so you're not even willing to talk and just decide if it's...
yes, I would.
But you're just saying there's very little that would sway you to say... Oh, then I feel like it's the guy's fault. You guys need to be very clear when you ask a female to marry, because I didn't know that it was just like
100%.
She's dead to me. I didn't know that it's just like that in your mind.
You know how vulnerable you don't know.
No, we don't. I get that. I respect that. I do respect that. Yeah.
No,
but women, we are vulnerable all the time, and things don't work out. So you're saying so the one time you're vulnerable and it doesn't work out the way you want it to.
Hold on, listen, ladies. If the first time your guy is vulnerable with you is when he proposes, that's a problem. You should say no.
Okay, yes. And we're not assuming that that's the case.
Right.
But I'm just saying, I see a lot of male ego here. Because
you always say that.
Well, because he has such a big one. But I'm just saying, you're not willing to hear the answer.
I would hear it. It's
but
just
you're
like
not going to be,
outcome.
okay. And so then you're not hearing it. You're listening. You're just like, yeah. And so,
I'm hearing, because I'm like, what? Clearly, why don't you want to marry me? What's the deal?
And there's nothing that she can say that this is not indicative of how I feel about you. It's just not right now.
Yes. Wow. Unless it's been like a week or like 3 months or something. And even then, if you feel it, I mean, do it.
He
just
says
make
that
sure.
now.
Just make sure that
I told him
sure.
the first day that we met that we were going to get married, and he probably thought I was a psychopath for the first 6 months.
To every guy
but now he's like, oh, if you feel it, just go. It's wonderful. Just foot loose and fancy free.
That's very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to see some consistency.
And the word consistency still grates me. But this is not about us. We're happily married. I know you can't tell.
See, it's about to come out.
We're happily married.
You're not going to tell, just say consistency in our messages. Except for them.
Okay. Yes. I want to hear in the comments, because this is an absolute, I guess I just didn't see that coming. I guess it was just like, if there better be a damn good reason. I'm open to that. I get that. So but he's saying nothing at all.
Hold on. So say the roles are reversed, because you've asked if you could propose,
and what have you said?
Not.
Okay, so I don't even know a universe in which the roles would be reversed, because I even joke about it, and steam starts coming out of his ears.
Yes,
so
yes, but for itchy giggles,
okay,
let's say that you can do it.
Okay,
all right, or envision yourself with. How about that? And then you can get yourself in that mindset. You got the ring.
Yes.
You got whatever planned out. You propose, and I say, no, that's okay.
Okay, so if you answer it like that now.
Okay. If I say, no, not right now.
No, if you answer like that, no. I need to see some conflict. I need to see tears in your eyes. I need to see that you are in an internal war.
You saw that on the other side.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was trying to ask you under which scenario would it be fine. Now you're asking me under which scenario would be fine. I need to see some internal conflict going on. I need to see your eyes darting back and forth, and you're just like okay,
thinking?
yes. And then the tears form, and then you're just this is a struggle to tell you. And then when you say it, if it is taking my feelings into consideration, if I still feel like there's some love and care, and you're like, I love you, there's not enough time for, like, I'm a child of divorce.
Okay.
And I really want to make sure that there's enough under our belt to make sure I feel like we're on that track. I'm just not there yet, and I need you to be there with, if you really love me, and if you feel like I'm the person for you, not just right now, but just in life, stick with me, ride this out, but I'm just saying not right now. What do you say to that? I'm like, okay.
Deuces. Deuces.
I didn't see that coming.
Deuces.
This is ego. This is ego. Now there has to be. He's going to go home and cry like a little baby, and he's going to be depressed for the next 6 months and not come out of his house.
Probably.
And why? Why subject yourself to that misery when you could have just heard her out and given her some
I did hear her out.
given her some grace?
No. That's why you should be sure, fellas. You should be sure.
Ladies, I need you to ask, if you're dating, I need you to ask your boyfriend if this is a deal breaker, just so you know when you say, if you should say no, what you're getting into, okay? Because don't not be ready and have a real good reason, because it doesn't sound like it's going to work out for you. So
at least
just
for me and myself, that's
I get that, and that's how you can answer from. That's how you can answer
It's not
from.
going to work out.
I want to hear it in the comments. Ladies, is there a reason under which you would be like, I get that? Yeah. Guys, I don't know. I'm not holding out hope for you, because Sean is very, very clear that it's just
very clear. And I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong, and there could be
there
guys
is no,
out there.
I mean, that's the beauty of these questions, is that they're human questions, and so there really is no right or wrong answer. You're not a bad person either way for sticking to what your boundaries are. So there's no wrong answer.
I speak for all guys here when
I'm interested.
I'm just like
I'm interested. If you are,
yeah.
So
but please hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think, or what you may or may not do.
yeah, we want to know. We want to know. Right?
Part 2.
Why you should not work with your significant other.
All
What are
right.
the reasons?
Yep. So we'll get started with number 6. The next one up is financial stress.
Okay, so well-intentioned, well-meaning loved ones are going to be nervous for you having to be the one that makes your money. There's a saying about entrepreneurs, we eat what we kill. So back in the primal days, they did not have people in the wild coming and bringing you food and saying, you look hungry. Let me make sure I feed you until you're able to go out and hunt and get your own food. Back in the days, the weak didn't survive if they weren't able to go out and, I wouldn't even say back in the day. I would say back in the day for humans on a primal level. But I would say in the wild, it's the same. You have to be able to provide and go out and seek it and bring it back home, because you don't have the safety net of a 9-to-5 or any other job catching your fall.
For sure.
So if we don't bill it, if we don't kill it, if we don't create it, the income doesn't exist. So when people are well-intentioned and are telling you, I'm a little worried because bills are going to come no matter how great your dream is and how much you should follow it, that is definitely something that you should listen to.
For sure.
And it's definitely not something that you should jump into without a lot of thought. By thought, I mean maybe one person holds a job and the other one tries out the entrepreneurial dream that you guys have together. Maybe you guys both work part-time and then give some time. There has to be a plan. I don't want to be irresponsible and tell you just ignore this objection that people throw your way, because this is one that you can't get around. You have to pay to eat. You have to pay to live. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to kill it to bring it back home, or else it doesn't come. There is no safety net. So there has to be a plan for how to make this work for you. And there has to be, what do they call them? They call them income producing activities. There has to be income producing activities that you're doing on a daily basis when you are at home. Because I know designing your business cards, designing your website, different things that are great.
Expenses.
That are great, but that are not going to produce income, put you in a precarious situation when you are doing this on your own. So I definitely think that's something, if it seems like I got real serious, it's because it is. I don't want to be haphazard with this one. This objection is a true objection that is not something that you can just start going and see. It's one that you have to have a plan for. So that's what I would say about that one.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Along with having a plan, part of that plan should be making sure that you have a budget. However you choose to create that budget, whether it's on a spreadsheet in Excel, whether it's, one of the various platforms online that you can use, or if it's through your banking app. Like most banks have a tool when you log in that will allow you to automatically categorize your transactions, and you can kind of budget that way. Whatever way you figure out how to do it, make sure you do it. And along with that, make sure you have some shared financial goals and that you are doing income producing activities to try to reach those goals.
Yeah. I know that there have been different times where we've been really up. And there have been different times where we've been really down. We were blessed for a long time because he had his 6-figure job that was a safety net for us. And so we were able to build the business. We got going. We started thinking life was great and we got this, and then lost a big funding source. So when I say big, it was one that we were billing 6 figures a month.
Yeah.
So when we pushed ourselves, I mean, by the grace of God, we're back to a 7-figure business, right? We weren't always, we had to recover. But when we talk about being a 7-figure business, this funding source was the first funding source that pushed us into that category of being a 7-figure business. And to lose them, I would say maybe with a month's warning, not a lot of warning.
Not a lot, yeah.
And having to lay off about 50% of our staff.
Yeah.
I won't lie, I went into depression. I was like, I'm a fluke. This was a fluke. Anybody can be successful for a year or two, but to maintain it, I couldn't even do that. What about these people that trusted me with their kids' college and their bills? It was a lot. And I think, and we'll get into this more when, we do another podcast about the 5 biggest blows that we've taken and what we've learned from them. But I think the biggest thing we learned from that is just having financial diversity.
Yeah.
And when things are up, definitely socking it away into other things that are going to make money. So for us, we would sock a lot of our profit into real estate so that could make money, so that when things are kind of on the downswing, which they are, life is a roller coaster, not just business, marriage, aging, friendships. It's all a roller coaster that you have to ride out, right? Yeah. So when you're high, really socking those things away so that you can live off of. Now we're blessed to be in a position that if we need to, we can offload a property. We can refinance a property. We can do something where if we didn't put that money aside when we were high and just lived and footloose and fancy free, as we're kind of going back low or transitioning, we opened up a new branch of our business, and that took some time to figure out.
And not a physical branch, just a different stream.
Another income producing stream. But you're going to pay a lot more as you figure it out before money comes back to you. It's planting that seed, right? So you're going to have to be able to plant seeds that you're not going to see the fruits of right away.
For sure.
You're going to need that money to hold you, because no business plants a seed and picks up the harvest right away. It just doesn't work like that.
And you want to also know your revenue streams and their propensity for consistency, if that makes sense. And so that funding source was a government funding source, and they changed one little regulation, and that killed the whole thing.
For sure.
They killed the whole thing for us. So being able to, even though you have that revenue stream, being mindful of what could tank that revenue stream and making sure that you have other streams of income to offset that.
Diverse, for sure. And especially if you are just working for yourselves. It is a blessing. It is a blessing to get up every morning, take our kids to school, and come back to our home and work together, and we just work for ourselves. However, we are not at all confused about the weight of what we have.
For sure.
We have private school tuition, we got cheer, we got dance, we have everything on our shoulders, and that's just for our families. Then we have the families of 40 other people they're paying their private school tuition, their dance, their cheer by what we do. So just understand that if your loved ones are bringing up this objection, it's not something that should stop you and detour you, but it is something that should stop you and cause you to ask these questions that we're talking about, to make sure that you have a plan that's going to set you up to weather the storms, really.
And this isn't something that, financial stress that's specific to couples who are working together in business or entrepreneurship. Even two people with two separate 9-to-5s that are together could still have the same financial stress. So the same plan, budget, all of that stuff still
Applies for sure. So even if you're not just working for yourself and you have a 9-to-5 and you guys are doing a side hustle or trying to decide where you fit in this, Partners in Prosperity workup, these are all, very good things to keep in mind.
For sure. The next thing would be, next roadblock would be role confusion.
What are you doing? Am I doing that? Are you doing that? Who's doing what?
I know.
That's
all the time that we've kind of settled into our roles now, right?
Yeah, we definitely have. But then there's sometimes where maybe fires come up or where new things come up where it's like we both want to, we both feel it's within our wheelhouse to make happen, and both of us want to jump on it. And it's like, first of all, that's a waste of resources because we're both doing the same thing. And second of all, we are inevitably going to step on each other's toes. And I see the conflict around the corner. I see it,
Yep. And we probably have 2 Partners in Prosperity YouTube pages and all sorts of stuff because she started one, I started one, she's doing video editing, I'm doing video editing.
Yeah.
And so all of this stuff was new to us. And so we're figuring it out as we go. A lot of our defined roles that we have come from our business that we've been in for a long time. And so we don't really have a lot of overlap with those roles. The overlap kind of comes in when something comes in off the fly or something new that we're doing that we haven't delved into before. But how you figure out those roles should always be the same, which is who may be the best person who can do it, who has the bandwidth to do it, and who has the ability to, if there's something wrong with it, how to fix it, how to resolve it, and then maybe show somebody else how to do it so that you can move on and do something else.
Figuring out exactly who's best equipped to do it, and then the time about it. It's definitely something that one of the other points that we pointed out, the communication that helps us out. Those meetings first thing in the week, whenever you want to have it, as long as it's something consistent, we can talk about what's on our priority list to get done and say, okay, so are you going to do that? Do you need me to do it? Based on what your list is, it looks like you have a lot of stuff. Is there anything I can take off of your plate? So you're clear about who's going to do it. It also helps with accountability. If we're not sure who's doing it and we just assume one person's doing it, who do we know to come back to and check in on it or to come back to and problem solve when something went wrong with it? So that helps with the accountability too.
Sure. And that's something that it's a pet peeve of mine is when in our behavioral agency, when I see emails going back and forth and something needs to get done and someone says, hey, can somebody do this? Or hey, go do this. And it's not specified to a person. I'm like, oh,
he's quick to call a meeting and we have to now come up with the whole workflow. Our meeting this morning was about a whole workflow about new hires because it was falling through the crack of what the supervisor is supposed to reach out and what's supposed to happen next. And it just felt like it was floundering. So while every department knew what they were supposed to do, there was no accountability because we didn't know what each department was doing and things were just falling. And so that is something for him, the way his personality is set up, he definitely needs systems and everybody does, but for him, it's most important that those systems and processes are there. So it's not just the clear role definition with you and your spouse or your significant other. It's also the people that you have working with you, your assistant or, your kids that are helping you. Just the role confusion, it's hard because he is the leader of our household and I defer to him for all, life decisions. He is our leader. I definitely have input, but I trust that he has our best interest at heart. So if it comes to something that I don't agree with and something that he wants, we're deferring to him. And you have to have that because you can't have a lot of confusion of two people taking the family in two different directions. I have to trust that unless it's a 2 for him and it's a 10 for me, that if it's something he feels strongly about and something I feel strongly about, we have to have the person that we're going to defer to. That's the only way that progress is made. However, in the business, there's times where it's me he has to defer to. So having those boundaries, having those boundaries saying, okay, that might be what we do at the house, but in business, this is what we need to do. I'm the one that's in charge of this part. And, really being able to put your ego aside and and be okay with that.
For sure. And before y'all come at me or us in the comments about leading the household and that whole thing, because I know how that can go, let me first say that yes, while I may be the leader of the household, the way that I lead, and I can't speak for every guy, But the way that I lead is I take into account everybody's opinion and wants and needs in the household, almost to a fault. There's no part of my leadership that's like, hey, this is what we're doing, and that's it.
Except there's this one thing.
No, I've gotten input about that as well.
Oh yes, he's gotten input from everybody in the family. We are a family of 7. It's just him and my oldest daughter that are voting no. That means 5 of us are voting yes. We all want baby brother. He will not. So don't be fooled when he talks about this whole democracy where he takes everybody's thoughts into consideration and he really weighs it and thinks heavily. He is outvoted on this and it's still saying no.
And you know why I've outvoted the others on this? Is
It changes every day. It's a different
looked at
reason.
our family capacity, and we cannot add another mouth. It's just not
I think 5 of us agree that we can. So
Yep.
I just
and 4 of those 5 ain't gonna help at all. They're still gonna be like, give me.
I'm just saying, I would like to add that asterisk. It will always go down in history that he doesn't always defer to what the majority says.
And listen, here's the thing. You know that box that we were talking about? That box, she runs that box, and I don't care. That's fine. You can do whatever you want in that box. Where I come in as far as my decision making is once you get to the edges, that's when I start coming in and be like,
And
okay,
I guess baby brother's on the outside of the box.
Baby brother's definitely on the outside of that box.
We don't get baby brother.
No. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be doing this podcast. Probably we wouldn't have time to.
I mean, just go back and tell the people how wonderful of a leader you are. I just want to put that out there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please go back and tell them how you take everybody.
We got number 8 here. We got 3 more to go.
You were off of that topic, huh?
Yep. Well, time to go. Next one is burnout and being overworked. This goes hand in hand with, the work-life balance.
Yeah.
One of the gifts that I have is being able to recognize capacity. And so if she's sitting at her desk for 12 hours, I know that after that, she's going to go crash.
Yeah.
So I make sure, she has, something to eat, dinner and stuff. Her heating pad's turned on. Remote's right on the bed so she can watch whatever she wants to watch.
2 minutes of whatever show that I spent 20 minutes curating very carefully. But I mean, you guys know that, right? How you pick a show and then watch the first 30 seconds before you go to bed. But yeah.
And so just making sure that you have, we spoke about income producing activities. And so an analogy for that would be stress relief activities as well. And so you want to make sure that you're building that stuff in so that you have that, so you don't succumb to that burnout and being overworked. That's part of why I get up from my desk, is so that I don't, after 2 hours, be like, oh, I hate this, and just never come back to the desk. And so for me, that's something that I need. And I know she needs that as well, just in a different capacity that I do. So I try to help her with that and make sure that if I come to her and say, hey, it's 9 p.m., let's, get out of the office, let's go do something else, that number one, I'm not, interrupting her in something that she's critically doing, ensure that there aren't any deadlines or anything that needs to be met. Otherwise, she really will sit there all day. And if I come to her and say, hey, you've been there for a while, take a break and do something, she will. So just making sure you have that balance, and if you're that person that will sit there all day, you have to have somebody else or some sort of mechanism to break that up for you. Otherwise, you will burn yourself out.
And I think if you are working in your home, it's even easier to, kind of have that burnout, because a lot of times what will happen is, even if there is a designated area for work, work can kind of spill into other areas. So I talk sometimes about taking my computer and going into the room and working again, or getting up first thing in the morning and, as I'm getting the kids ready, remembering that there were some, papers I needed to print out for my assistant, because you don't have to commute, get in the car and, put some time and space between your home and your work life. Sometimes those bleed in together and you don't take the time that you need because they're all together. So just understanding that you're going to have a higher propensity to have a hard time blurring those lines if you are working in your home. So having the space is helpful, but also understanding when that space bleeds out and when you find yourself kind of fitting it in different spots than you initially, had kind of figured it out. But also it could be relationship burnout too, because if we're always talking about being CEO and CFO, then we are not talking about being husband and wife or best friends, or, we don't get that. And we need that. We need time to just make up dance routines in the kitchen, or to joke and put our 90s music on and talk about where you were when the song came on. And we need that time.
In the trap.
Was that 90s? That was 2000s, I think.
That's 2000.
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah.
for sure.
And so we need that time, and it's not always just the activity that can cause you to burn out. It's also the headspace where you are looking at each other as business partners for too many hours of the day, and don't get a chance to look at each other as the thing that brought you together. You are CEO of a business, but you are CEO of your family first. And if that CEO relationship falls short, then all the other little titles that you have are going to fall away.
Cookies crumble.
So just making sure that it's not a mental and relationship overwork too, where you're just looking at this person as, did you do this? Okay, did you do this? Did you send those invoices? Okay, did you do that? Okay, cool. And then that's the conversation that you have, and you go off your way and he goes his, and then you come back, oh, I was thinking, and we do this. And there's not that time where none of that is present, and you guys are able to kind of connect on a different level other than that. So that burnout, we all fall back into it, especially when sometimes we can't avoid that. We say all the time that there's no such thing as work-life balance, because it's going to be unbalanced no matter what. There's going to be times where our kids take precedent and we need to be there for our family, and work is getting in where it fit in. And then there's going to be time where work takes precedent and we really need to get things done. You just have to be fine with not having it all the time. You can have all the balls. You have to understand they can't all be in the air at the same time. It's not problematic unless it's something that consistently happens where you're not able to kind of disconnect and see each other in a different way.
One main thing that helps with that is making sure that you have something to look forward to. So make sure you schedule a date night.
Our Fridays. We look forward to our Fridays. Thursday night, everybody's excited. We're excited. Like, what are we going to do tomorrow? Even if it's not much and we just go on a long walk or something, we're always looking forward to what do our Fridays look like,
And that's on a day-to-day level. On a quarterly or half a year or a year basis, you also want to make sure that you have something scheduled on the calendar. Like, we like to go to Vegas, so we'll put that on the calendar, and we'll start counting down 30 days to whatever the date is. So
we definitely leave the country. We love that.
Stamps on the passport, baby. So
staycations, all of anything that gets us traveling. We talked about our mission statement and what our core values, and traveling is huge for us. It's just something to look forward. But maybe having people over, maybe entertaining is huge for you. So you don't necessarily need to go anywhere, but just knowing that on Friday you're about to host a dinner and everybody's going to come over, our game night, and everybody's going to come over and play. It doesn't have to be, the same for everybody. So, maybe just knowing that everything's about to shut down and you have no expectations, and everybody's going to be under one roof, and you guys can binge watch some things, and whatever is your happy place that makes you feel like this is breaking me out of my responsibilities, making sure you have that. Looking forward to having something on the calendar always to look forward to is huge, I think, for anybody.
Absolutely. All right. Risk and uncertainty in entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship should just equal out, and I want to say it's Latin or French, one of those, but that should just equal out to, entrepreneurship should equal out to risk, because that's all it is risk. It's very, very risky. In your 9 to 5, you know exactly when you're going to get paid. If you're hourly, you know exactly, or salary, you know exactly what you're going to get paid. It's like clockwork for the most part, right?
And I feel like entrepreneurship, the risk you're talking about, it's like the stocks, right? The ones that are higher volatile have the chance for bigger rewards. And the ones that are safe, that you know that you're not going to have much fluctuation, you're not going to get much reward. So what is your reward worth to you? Is the risk worth the higher payout, and that's your reward? Or is your reward just consistency? You need to ask yourself that, because if you feel rewarded by the consistency of a steady paycheck, maybe entrepreneurship is not for you, because it's the people that take the risks that are going to get the higher payouts, but they're also going to have the bigger losses. So we will not sit and tell you that we haven't had losses where it's nothing but the grace of God that has kept us afloat. Any entrepreneur that has had any success is also going to have those stories where they can tell you, I don't know how we've made it this far. It comes with the territory. So if that type of volatility is not something that sits well in your stomach, it is an objection, that you should heed to and really talk about what you need to make that something that you can deal with. When you are working for a company and working for corporate, the owner is always going to make more than you make. The owner is always going to have the higher payout than you make.
Except in our case.
Well, so I would say corporate. If we were a Fortune 500 company and we were publicly traded, we would have the higher amount. We are a smaller company that is consistently reinvesting into ours or taking whatever profit we have and investing into new branches of something. So it's all very calculated, and we do, obviously we're not doing too bad, but it's something where, yes, the younger businesses and the ones that are just starting out are not going to be having, the more success. But I said that to say that the reason it's set up like that is because they take the most risk. And like Sean pointed out, there were times where they wrote it through where they didn't get paid, or times where they wrote it through and they're getting paid less than them. I remember times where we would be looking, I think one of our managers was getting married and she was paying for all this stuff and we were barely paying ourselves. And so you're watching your employees, live their best life, and you're just working to pay your employee. So the reason that payout comes for you late, again, we talk about seeds and not sowing the harvest right away. The reason that payout comes for you after you've sown that seed, after some time, is because you have toiled the land. You've been out there pulling the weeds. You've been out there doing everything you need to do. So when that harvest comes, you own it. And so there's nothing wrong with that consistency of getting that check no matter what.
Right.
But the bigger payout is going to be to do it with the longer off, I would say the farther off one, where you are going to have to, take some L's. So there is that risk and uncertainty. The payout is just greater. That's why people do it, because if there was no payout, it would be like, well, why are people doing this? When they talk about the percentage of businesses that fail within the first 5 years, when they talk about it's one figure percent of businesses that hit 7 figures. Right. When they give you these statistics, and I'm sure your loved ones that are talking to you about it or have read these same ones, they're like, why would you do that? I don't get it. Why wouldn't you just go get a good job where if you do things right and play your cards right, you can work up to 6 figures and be just fine and be happy. The reason we do it is because there's flexibility and the payoff can be so much greater, but we don't want to just focus on that payout. We are not those influencers that just focus on the fancy cars and the fact that we travel all the time, and because there is going to be volatility. And the way that you pad that is when you're up, you're putting more seeds, you're spreading more seeds so that when things are down, you can collect that harvest. And it has to be that way. But if that's something that makes just talking about it makes you break out in sweats, you feel that knot forming in your stomach, then you got to ask yourself if it's for you. And it's okay that it's not, entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
For sure. And I want to mention, in my opinion, there's 2 different types of entrepreneurs, and this kind of goes along with the risk part. The first one is the entrepreneur who is still working 9 to 5, basically. And what that means is not a 9 to 5 for someone else. You are literally... You've
created a job for yourself.
You're the only one doing it, whether you're making candles or whatever it is. If you don't make those candles, you don't eat.
The income stops,
Right. And so that's the first type of entrepreneur, which is the most risky. And I think everybody kind of starts out at that point.
At least they should.
But you want to graduate to being the type of entrepreneur that has some sort of systems and balance, some sort of checks and balances in place, and systems and processes where you can go to sleep or take a day off and stuff still runs and goes whether you're there or not.
Yes.
And so that's where you really want to be as an entrepreneur, to kind of mitigate some of the volatility and risk that you experience in the beginning.
For sure. And then what you want to, the ultimate is where you are a passive entrepreneur, where you are just making money in your sleep. So whether that's taking your profits and investing them into something that is working for you and you're not doing anything, or whether that is buying back your time and setting up your business to where you can just come out and you're not doing anything. I think that's the holy grail. I think that we don't talk about that a lot because people confuse where they need to start with where they'd like to end up. And they feel like they should be able, maybe a couple months in, to be like, well, Bill Gates didn't, and we don't talk about the amount of time and the amount of effort and energy that Bill Gates put in before he got to the point where he was a passive entrepreneur. And so right now, for the purposes of what we're talking about, we're focusing on getting yourself from corporate, if that's what you want, to being able to work for yourself. And then for those of you who are working for yourself, getting yourself from working for yourself, well, it's a job strictly attached to your physical input, to a job where you're now able to delegate and you're using more mind power than body power. We're talking about kind of in that area because there is a lot of reinvesting back so that you can put people in place so that and so when I say buy your time back, that's what I mean. You're reinvesting so that you can hire and put people into place so that you can kind of move out of that into more passive. But you have to understand in the beginning, that means less for you because it's more people that you have to put in place to make it work. And so what do? What's the plan? Do you guys have a plan for how you're going to make that work? Because one thing that is certain is death and taxes, right?
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to pay to live.
And I remember when you first started and you had that one client that you were seeing, you know, that one turned into however many we have right now, a little over, in between 100 and 150 learners. But it was very, very interesting to see you literally going out and doing every aspect of the business right now, but just with one person, one learner. And then it ended up scaling and blowing up like crazy. But it's cool to see where that started and, you know, where we are right now.
For sure. And then we continue to try to find other streams of revenue and reinvest. So although that part is blown up, we have what we talked about before, have learned that we have to have some diversity. So then it's like, okay, so now that this is fine, now we need to take that and invest into this so this can start blowing up and running itself. So there is some debts that need to be paid. There's some dues that have to be paid before you get to that point where you're able to kind of, you know, buy your time back. And it's going to be some slim days in the beginning. I won't act like it's not.
For sure.
There's going to be some slim days in the beginning, middle, and end. It's just dependent on what you've done to kind of combat that and give yourself some cushion on what you do. There are companies still that are Fortune 500 companies that take losses, you know, of millions of dollars. And it's just based on what they've done to kind of pad when they had good years to see how they're going to ride it through.
For sure. The last one is a lack of a support network. And so that trips people up usually in the beginning because they will, you know, you're gung-ho about, you know, starting your business and getting out of the 9-to-5. You went and listened to some motivational speakers, you taken some classes, you got your website, you got a business card, all that kind of stuff. And now your friends and family are like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're crazy. You're nuts. Why would you do this? Nobody's going to believe you. Nobody's going to help you. You're going to be by yourself. And in a month, you're going to be asking me to borrow money. Yeah.
And I keep saying well-intentioned. But let's be honest, there's some that are just haters, right? So not everybody's going to be well-intentioned. And I want to give you the benefit of the doubt of understanding that not everybody is saying things for your good. People are trained to kind of think about what their limitations are and then project them onto you because it couldn't be that I just can't do it. It must be that it just can't be done. And so you are going to run into that for sure. And it's just going to take the air right out of your little motivated balloon that you thought that you were, you know, going. And you're going to find yourself stuck and doubting yourself on what you are even doing in this entrepreneurial journey, especially married couples where it's like, well, I don't know about you, but I just couldn't be around my spouse all the time. Like I just couldn't do it. Like you guys, you know, or I don't know how you guys are going to, you know, do it. He going to be doing what and you going to be doing what, you know, there's going to be as many options as there are in the world to follow. There are probably 10 people to tell you why you shouldn't and what's going to go wrong with that. And then you just got to look at where they're at. And if they can't give you a better idea or a better a solution, then they may not be the ones that you need to listen to. So while we are here giving you the objectives, please understand we are also giving you solutions on how to combat that. And that's how you know you've found your people. When objections partnered with solutions, are people really looking out for your well-being? If it's just an objection with no solution and the only reason that they're putting it out there is to derail you, then those may not be your people. When it comes to this, they can be your family, you can love them, hang out with them on the side, but they may not be the community and the support network you need to help you through a startup and doing this.
And a lot of the times that negative energy is your spouse, your partner.
In the beginning, sometimes you have to show them. Sometimes you have to be the one to pick it up and start moving it so that they can see what will help men. I can only speak for men. As a spouse, what would help? I can't speak for females. You'll have to tell me what do you feel like females need to kind of be convinced. But I can tell you what men need to be convinced is they need to see consistency, and they need to see a path to them being able to provide for their family. They need to be able to see that this is not something that you're going to put a lot of effort to with small payout, because men a lot of times are, even if they're not telling you, their mind is always circling with how exactly do I, provide and support and make sure everybody's happy and taken care of. So I think that the objections as a woman in a heterosexual relationship, when I say men, I don't want to act like that's the only makeup of relationships. And so excuse me, because I have been doing that the whole podcast. But in this specific situation, I think that what helps them is just seeing a path to where it's going to be lucrative enough for them to be able to provide. And then it's not going to be a lot of energy, and the payout is not going to be worth it. What do you think as a guy? What do females want to see?
So in that situation, the guy is the one who's the entrepreneur, and
yes, yeah,
okay.
So you're trying to convince your spouse of the sex. What do they want to see?
I feel like women would like to see kind of the same thing, some sort of consistency. Okay. I don't think that women care necessarily where the financial support comes from. It just needs to be there, and that it's not, illegal or something.
Do you feel women are more inclined to be like, hey, I'll get in the trenches with you and do this with you. I just have to see that this is going to be something you're going to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that they're going to be revered as equal in that situation, that they're not coming in to be a secretary.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I'm glad Sean brought that up, because a lot of times when we talk about lack of support network, we think we're talking about external. But a lot of times the biggest battle that you'll face in wanting you and your partner to work together, or convincing your partner that this is something that you guys can both do. So I think that is worth kind of going into on a podcast of its own. It's just kind of how I convinced you, or what, because you were a corporate man when I met you. You had worked your way pretty far up the ladder, had a great job, and to be like, surprise, we're going to work for ourselves, and,
But remember, I also started my own thing when I was in Dallas. I just didn't like doing it.
Yes. So you did start it. So you were further. I had more ground to cover with you, because you had started it a little bit and been like, I don't ever want to be, managing people.
Yes,
I don't ever want to.
It was that part. It was that part. The behind the scene, all the other stuff. I just wanted to do the talent part, which was fix stuff.
Yeah. So that might be something that we get into more, because it deserves a more in-depth conversation, But I will say about the support network, if you and your partner are already on the same team, you're in the right place, because we're your support network.
For sure.
The community that we're building, the other couples that are interested, that are watching this, is because they're interested in the same thing that you're interested in. And so let us be that voice of reason, or that voice of motivation when you're feeling like, why did I do this? Let us tell you that it's completely normal. Let us be the ones that kind of show you that it can be done, so that you can replace those other voices that you're hearing with voices that are saying, it can be done, we did it, you can do it, as opposed to, it can't be done, I've never done it, so that must mean you can't do it. We'll definitely get more into the, convincing your spouse. Yeah. But if we're talking about that external network, welcome home. You guys, you got your network right here. You got your support system right here.
Right here. So addressing those challenges, requires open communication, mutual respect for sure.
Yeah.
Commitment to the same goals, commitment to each other. And then you guys could get through that. We titled this on purpose just to kind of bring you into it, but these really are reasons that are roadblocks, but they're not insurmountable by any means at all. It's just stuff that comes up.
I feel like too, we titled it that way because if you hear it in the way of why you shouldn't work with your spouse, if you hear the objections that we've given you as reasons not to work for your spouse, that's something to be respectful of and decide that maybe that, or be open to the fact that maybe working with your spouse and on your own is not something that's for you. But if you heard the objections, but held more fast to the solutions we gave you, then that might be something that's for you guys, or it might be something that you guys should continue, that path that you should continue along. So I feel like those who need to hear it, whichever way they need to hear it, will hear it that way. So the way it's titled means nothing to what will jump out at you and what will, attract you and kind of what you'll take from it.
For sure. But the main thing on that last point is please make sure you have some sort of support system, though. You find another couple or another mentor or
mastermind groups. Yeah.
You have to have some sort of support. Otherwise, that negativity will eat you up and it will prevent you from making that jump. Because
what they're saying is going to be true. What they are is some truth to what they're saying. So you need that support that's going to say, okay, but with my people, once that happens, I feel like I'm equipped to kind of get through that.
That's all right.
We finished it.
We're done?
Yes. Thank you guys
Wow.
for rocking with us. Thank you
Look at
guys for,
that.
yes. Thank you so much. If you felt like we've added any value to you, if you felt like there was anything in there that made you say, or made you, laugh or just caught your attention, please hit the like and subscribe button. We would love for you guys to be part of our community. We would love to have you rocking with us, I think. So we will see you next Wednesday. Happy hump day, by the way. We'll see you next Wednesday. In the meantime, did you have something to say?
I was just going to say subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit us up on IG under at Partners in Prosperity.
Yes, for sure. Or you can find us on Facebook at Partners in Prosperity. Until then, loved ones, it is our sincerest hope that you and your partner in prosperity will continue to be unified in purpose,
unstoppable as a team,
and unconditional above all.
Till next time.
Bye.